Hello, class. For this week's discussion post, we are tasked with picking one of the several articles for this week. I picked Kenneth Menkema's article, Reforming Harvard, Cotton Mather on Education at Cambridge. This article offered a glimpse into the critical eye of Cotton Mather, who was a alum of Harvard College, and also his father was a president of the college in the early 16th century. So Mather was really critical of how the college was being led and the direction that the vice president, Samuel Willard, and the successor of Mather's father, John Leverett, were guiding the college. And Mather was highly critical. Arguably, in Menkema's article, he expressed how Mather would have reluctantly accepted the position, but you could argue through his publications in which he was critical of the leadership, you would argue that he felt that he was deserving of the position and wanted the role. However, he would be overlooked and not given the opportunity to be the president of Harvard. However, the articles or the publications that Menkema highlighted in his article were his important points, which directly criticized Samuel Willard's directions of Harvard College, and also his Mather's letter to his son, in which, even despite Mather's displeasure with the direction that Harvard was going in, still enrolled his son into Harvard. But he sent him with a letter in how to guide himself through the college, and it was a slight dig at John Leverett and his lack of leadership and his lack of Mather's viewpoint of how the direction of the college was going. And he sent this letter to his son, publishing it in a way of, since Leverett isn't going to lead the college the way he should, I'm going to show you how you can lead yourself through this school. But Menkema points out, despite his efforts, that he would continually be passed up, despite his criticisms of the college, and feeling that not only his criticisms, but showing what he could do to be better. And in that, when Leverett did pass away, Mather felt that he should have been next in line. So he ended up writing his final publication that Menkema highlighted, known as his Maniducio Ministerium, the directions for a candidate of the ministry. So in this publication, it was shortly after the death of Leverett, and he wrote this in his diary, explaining how he would lead, or how someone would lead a college effectively, and a college that should be guiding ministers, which Mather still felt was the foundational direction that Harvard was to continue to be taking in guiding and growing future ministers. But what I appreciated about Menkema's article was that despite Mather not ever being tasked with the role of president of Harvard, he concluded his article by speculating what Harvard could have looked like under Mather's leadership. And he believed that with Mather's pedagogical influences from Khomeini and Auguste Frank, that he would have instituted a more learner-centered approach to the classroom. and would have begun to shy away from the typical recitation and memorization of classical books and texts, and focus more on dialogue and seminars where students are working together and the teacher's goal is to guide the student towards the truth through trial and error. But one could argue that Harvard was already going to go in that direction. As we see today, Harvard is still one of the leading Ivy League schools and one of the leading intellectual academic institutions in our country. So even though Mather wasn't president, Harvard was still in good hands. So you could argue that the foundational principles of ministry would have remained a little bit longer and would have been stronger if Mather would have been approached with the role of president. But I would argue that Harvard was still on that direction to continuing to be a strong academic institution. However, by the 19th century, it still became a more liberal institution, which Mather would have been reluctant to change with his Protestant values. But nonetheless, it was an interesting article, which I appreciated learning a little bit more of Mather's approach and perspective to education, especially at Harvard with his alma mater. But I hope you all enjoyed your readings and look forward to hearing from what you gathered from the articles that you read.